You know a business owner is an amateur when they blame the lack of sales as their main issue that's preventing them from scaling. Everyone blames sales problems, but the real reason you're struggling most likely has nothing to do with sales at all. Because after helping multiple info product businesses, coaches, creators, influencers make multiple 6 and even 7 figures online, and after consulting hundreds of online business owners to help them make more money with their personal brand, the reality is if you have more than 10 to 30,000 followers but you're barely making any money with your brand, you're stuck because you don't have a product that your audience would kill for. And even if you have some sort of product in place already that you're trying to monetize your brand with, it's very likely to be a product that you have to push and force to sell to your audience and not a product that your audience simply buys from you. Because instead of looking for new ways to push or promote your product and trying every single sales and promotion hack that you can find, if you actually want to make money with your brand, you need to understand how to get the perfect product market fit with your audience and give them a product so irresistible that they're naturally pulled to buy it from you, instead of you having to force and push and sell to them. And that's exactly what we're going to cover in the next 10 minutes today, because the good news is you can find the product market fit with your audience in as little as 60 minutes and get your audience to buy from you instead of you having to push to sell them. If you watch this video and you have any questions or you need any help implementing this process directly into your business, click the link below to DM me on Instagram with your questions. So how do you actually get your audience to buy from you? So before we actually cover how you can create a product that your audience is naturally pulled towards, we need to cover what products typically won't make you the money you deserve with your brand. And a few of those things are generating money by letting others monetize your brands. So this is sponsorships, right? If you want to maximize how much you make with your personal brand, this isn't something I would do. The other thing would be expecting people to come to you, right? If you don't actually have a way to convert your audience and you're expecting your audience to just simply come to you, that's something I would stop doing. You have to stop expecting your content to pay off for itself. You can't just sell low ticket products, and you also shouldn't be doing hourly consultations where you're directly selling your time for money. Because even if these things sell, if you have them right now and they're working, they're the exact reason why you're not making the money you want to make with your brand. The reason for that is because these things, they don't cater to the majority of your audience. You don't need to take my word for it. You just can look at the biggest competitors in your niche and just some of the biggest personal brands out there, right? Every personal brand that's generating multiple 6 and 7 figures per month doesn't do this. None of these people offer hourly consultations. None of them just simply have a low ticket product. None of them are letting people sponsor their brand. It just doesn't happen. So here's how you actually get product market fit, and here's how you get alignment with your audience, like these multi-million-dollar brands, so people start buying from you naturally. And you, again, don't have to pressure them, and you don't have to do pushy sales tactics. You don't have to do any sort of promotion hacks. They just naturally get pulled towards buying from you. This might not sound like a sexy solution, but this is the solution you need to implement if you genuinely want to give your audience the best possible solution to their problems that you can give them. And that comes down to doing market research, right? And I see a lot of coaches, consultants, creators, influencers think that they know their audience, they understand their audience, and they just avoid this process entirely. They don't do actual in-depth market research on their audience, and then they end up creating products like this that don't really sell or don't sell enough where it makes sense for them to keep running their personal brands full time. And the reason for that is because oftentimes, like, you do understand who you're creating content for, right? You do understand your avatar, but in a way you understand that avatar from your own perspective. What I'm talking about here is understanding your avatar, your followers, your audience, what they're genuinely looking for and what they need help with and what they would literally kill for in terms of like a product. I'm talking about getting that and understanding that from a data-backed standpoint, right? So how do you do that? How do you do proper market research? How do you get that information from your audience in as little as 60 minutes? Because once you do get that information, that's when you're able to create a product that your audience is just naturally pulled towards buying from you. So finding that alignment and doing that research comes down to two sources. There's a primary source and there's a secondary source. And this is where you're actually getting the data points and you're finding what your audience truly desires. So let's go over the secondary source, and then we're going to go into how the primary source works. So when it comes to the secondary source, what you're looking for is people with overlapping audiences. You're looking for essentially like your avatar, the avatar that you're selling to, and the avatar that you're marketing to with your content. And their deep-rooted pain points, their deep-rooted problems, their desires, what they actually want in life, their reasons for doing it. So to not overcomplicate this any further, let's take the example of trading. Let's say you're selling trading. And by the way, this applies to any sort of niche. So no matter what niche you operate in, what your brand is about, you can literally do the same exact process, replicate it for yourself, and actually find what's going to align with your audience. For secondary sources, if we were to look at trading, there would be a few primary sources of information that I would look at to find what my audience is actually struggling with, what my audience is looking for, and how I could better help them so they actually buy my products. One of those sources is obvious, it's your competitors. So this is going to your competitors' pages, right? Looking at their comments, looking at what people are saying under their posts, the questions that people are asking. But what I like to personally do is to look at reviews, forums, and again, reviews of like other communities, right? So for example, with trading, even if you're not a trader, you probably know this guy. If I was to sell a trading offer, I'd look at the reviews that he has and what people people are saying about his product. Oftentimes, people will go deeper in the reviews. They're going to talk about what specific problems that product solved, what specific problems it didn't solve, what they got if there was some sort of desire they had coming into that product. And that's exactly what we're looking for, right? And something cool is you can always, if you're on Amazon, WAP, on these platforms, you can filter the reviews, right? So you can see what people aren't happy about, what they enjoy about the product, and then you can take these things and better understand your avatar so that you can create a product that actually aligns with them. So if I was to look at this review here on Amazon for a book teaching trading, I would understand that people value simplicity. If we keep scrolling here and we look at this review, we can see that this person is talking about the book helping him make an informed decision whether or not he should do day trading full time. So what does this mean for us? This means that this is something we can add to our deliverable or to our marketing. If we're selling a trading product, we know that this is a desire that traders have, especially if this is something that is going to repeat, which I assume it will throughout the other reviews. We now have pulled a desire from our avatar, and we know that a lot of people who day trade want to go full time, right? So same thing here. We can see the product reviews on TGR's page here, and what we can look at is like the 1-star. What we can actually do with our marketing and the product is we can sell against these things that people are upset about. So here, for example, we see a reason someone canceled their subscription, right? So we can sell against this in our product. And then we can do the same thing and look at the 5-star reviews and look what desires this product has helped people achieve. So here we can see that the desire for this guy is becoming a profitable trader. For this guy as well, right? It's a repeating pattern. So that's something we can add to our marketing as well as our product, a deliverable. It's helping them get on track to becoming a profitable trader if we were to sell trading. And again, you copy and paste the same entire process for your product, for whatever niche you operate in. The same principles apply. And then you can pull these same things out of Quora, out of Reddit. And by the way, you don't just kind of read through them and just leave them there and just keep them in your head. You put them into a sheet like this. These aren't just things that you kind of read over, memorize, and then just try to apply them to your product. That's not really the best way of doing this. It actually involves putting this into GPT and then having GPT do this for you, which we're going to get into. But you fill out a sheet like this every time you find a problem, a desire, a reason, a limiting belief, right? Why people wouldn't do it, like an obstacle that prevented them from going forward with a competitor's program or going forward, with trading. And this will later be plugged into GPT to help you create a buyer's matrix to see what's going to pull buyers towards you without having to pressure sell them. So let's actually change the example here. Let's talk about a physical problem with a weight loss offer, right? Let's say you're selling weight loss, because again, these principles literally apply to anything that you're possibly selling, anything you're possibly creating content on. You can apply these same principles into what you do, right? So a physical problem would be someone having knee pain because they're overweight. An emotional problem could be that I'm having low self-confidence. A physical desire could be to be in good shape and good health, right? An emotional desire could be to feel happy in their own body, happy and confident in their own body. A limiting belief, a why not. So essentially an obstacle that prevents them from taking action on a weight loss journey and essentially prevents them from changing their life and hitting these desires could be that they've tried diet plans before and it didn't work for them. And then a common belief, for example, could be that all diet plans are the same and it's just not going to work for them, right? That could be a common belief across a certain audience, as an example. And then here you actually put in where you got these things from for context, right? And this just helps you categorize it and understand if this is something that came from a review, a competitor, a forum, right? You put that into the comment section, then you put a takeaway, and this is like your core idea, right? So this is what I just described, right? So let's say someone says I'm obese and I feel knee pain. If I'm selling weight loss, the core takeaway would be my market struggles with knee pain, right? That's a big problem for them that I can help them solve. And what that does for you is now you can infuse that into your product and your deliverables, and then you can infuse that into your marketing as well, like your content. So now let's go to the primary source of information. And this, I believe, is the better source of information, is just more direct. And it's also easier to acquire than going through forums. And typically, if you do have a decent sized audience, as I said, like 10 to 30,000 followers at minimum, this is how you're actually going to save yourself time and get this information faster so that you can create a product that your audience is pulled towards and start making the money that you deserve to make with your personal brand, right? So what you would do is you would have a direct feedback form or a direct feedback call from your audience. So what this would look like is if you were taking market research calls, you would put up a story like this, a beautiful image of you, and then a call to action, right? For the next 24 hours, I'm running 5 free coaching calls to help you do XYZ. This depends on like the big ultimate goal that your market has, which you probably know if you're making videos about that, right? The whole point of doing this is to find the little specific things about your market that you don't know yet so you can improve your product and your marketing. Because again, when you find these specific desires and pain points and you talk to someone in your audience and you're able to explain their problem state and desire state better than anyone else, they're going to come to you and they're going to buy your product, right? So you can do this and you can book calls, market research calls, and then I'm going to go over the questions you ask. And if for some reason you cannot take calls or you don't have the time to, again, this is meant to be a time conservative process. You can just put this into a type form, and then instead of this, you would run a story that would be something like, for the next 24 hours, I'm running a feedback form to help me better serve, and I'm going to create some free trainings for anyone who answers this form, and then you would link the form, right? Because you can do this through type form or call. The main thing is to get direct responses from people in your audience, right? Because this is your market. This is literally your market that you're selling selling a product to, that you're trying to create a better product for. So the primary source of information is the best source of information, in my opinion, specifically if you're trying to make money from your organic audience, right? So some of the questions you would ask, and we're going to take a trading example again. What problems did they face in trading before joining the server, right? If you run some sort of like trading community, how do they emotionally feel facing these problems? And you can, again, reverse engineer this for whatever niche you operate in. What are some fears they have now, or what are some fears before they, potentially started working with you? I do suggest that if you have current customers, by the way, you do these calls with your current customers, right? So people who already bought from you, and particularly people who got good results, because their feedback is going to help you sell new people who can get good results like them, right? I mean, when you're selling people onto your product, and if you do have good intentions, which I hope you do, your goal is to get them the best results possible, right? So that's why you interview your best students, your best success stories, and you ask them these questions. If you don't have any clients or customers right now, you can just do this with people in your audience. And if you need any help creating these questions specifically for your brand, DM me on Instagram, which is linked down below. Now, when you create these questions and you get these calls, right, make sure you record these calls and you get transcripts from them, and then you get all these form replies that you fill in from doing secondary source research. You then use ChatGPT. And into ChatGPT, what you do is you feed those call transcripts and you feed in the form responses, and then you ask GPT market research questions, and it literally does everything else for you. And I'm going to show you how. So in the example of the calls, let's say you do 5 calls with your current customers or members of your audience, right? I suggest doing a minimum of 5 to 10 calls for the best possible objective data on what your audience actually needs and what your audience would actually buy from you. And then you plug it into GPT and you put a prompt like this, right? I need you to analyze several call transcripts to identify the common themes and patterns amongst the prospects. Then you can upload those transcripts and you can upload this essentially feedback form, right? Market research form. And then you're able to ask GPT to organize everything and categorize everything. So for example, you can ask, give me a list of 50 problems these prospects would relate to, or give me the commonalities between these prospects, right? Give me a list of 50 desires. And I'm going to show you where this goes now, right? After you get the problem list, after you get all these questions, and by the way, you don't just ask it, 2-3 questions. There's a lot more deeper questions you go into. And again, if you want a complete prompt list specific to your audience and what you do, shoot me a DM on Instagram, because once you ask those questions and you get all those answers from GPT based on, the research that you plugged in, you're able to create a creative brief on your offer, right? And if you're unsure how to create the creative brief, you're literally able to ask GPT to do it for you. And it does a great job, by the way. And in your creative brief, the main thing you're going to have to create a product that's aligned from your audience, that your audience is pulled towards, is your problem list as well as your desire list, right? And in between these two things, you have a gap, right? Because your audience, the people in your audience, they want a bridge from their problems to their desires, their dream state. And your job with creating a product and also marketing that product is to help them bridge your gap, right? With your product, with your marketing, by speaking to their problems and desires. And again, explaining their problem state as well as their desire state better to them than anyone else has before. And that's when they're going to buy from you. And in terms of creating the actual product, right? Creating a product that's desirable, if you're unsure how to do that, GPT, because you just done this entire process, it's going to understand your audience better than you. So you can literally ask GPT to do it for you, right? You can ask it to create a low ticket product, a membership product, a high ticket product, whatever you have the time to actually fulfill on. And in the trading offer example, after doing market research on a specific trading offer that we're running, this is what we were able to do. This is what we were able to come up with that's specifically aligned with this creator's audience. I'm not going to go into the deliverables here, but these are the results that it's getting. And this is across a few month period. Now, after you actually create a product, you can now market it in a way that speaks to your audience's real pains and desires. And you can now set up a high converting funnel that converts traffic into buyers. And when you set up your funnel, that funnel will also speak to your audience's problem state as well as their desire state. And that funnel will literally show them how the product is going to bridge the gap. Now, the reason I'm not covering the funnel in this video is because it would take too long. And I went very in depth on building a high converting funnel in the last 2 videos, which I'll link below. Now, if you run a personal brand, you operate an offer and you want to get results like this, but you don't want to do the work involved, or you don't have the time to do the work involved in finding product audience alignment, creating that perfect product, and actually building a high converting funnel to sell it, but you want to generate multiple 5, 6, and potentially 7 figures with your brand by simply focusing on the content and being the face of the brand, or if you just have any questions about the process we covered today or about implementing it, DM me on IG. It's linked below with any questions that you have, and we could also see if there's any way for us to partner up and help you scale. Because if you feel like you're not generating the sales that you deserve with your brand and you want to scale, there's only really 2 problems that are probably holding you back from generating multiple 5, 6, and potentially 7 figures with your current brand. The first problem is you just don't have the time to consistently dial in your systems and processes that will allow you to scale. And the second problem could be that you just simply don't have the skill to do it. And if you want help or just simple advice on overcoming either of those problems so that you can ultimately scale to 20, 50, 100K per month or more, and finally get the income that you deserve from your brand or your coaching business, DM me on Instagram, which is linked below, and we'll take it from there.